talk about Bavette's. For all you non-carnivores, there are some vegan selections over at Bavette's. If you don't know Bavette's has a long history. They have several locations. They are also located in Chicago, which is their original, and Bavette's is located in Park MGM. Once you go in, it's very nondescript. It has this beautiful neon light when you first go in there, very retro. You walk in, little lobby, and the minute that door closes behind you, you can almost forget you're actually in a casino, which is kind of cool because a lot of these steakhouses, a lot of the restaurants in this town, they want to give you the feel, they want to give you what I would say the best of both worlds. They want to give you a fine dining experience and feel like you're still part of the action. Bavette's took a different tact. Once you're inside Bavette's, you can be anywhere. You're just sort of transported into a completely different vibe. It's like a 20s, maybe early 30s steakhouse feel. Wood everywhere, beautiful lighting, mostly probably faux incandescent, but really nice. It's not all LEDs. It's like old school. If you've ever been to, obviously, Bavette's in Chicago, or if you've been to New York, if you've been to any of the Peter Lugers, same type of feel, a heavy wood. I wouldn't call it rustic. I would call it classic. It has a classic, it's just a great feel in there. Period music, which was nice too. As far as the food goes, you want to talk about the sides real quick? The sides. All right, for all you foodies out there, I don't normally do food reviews, but I've been asked about it a lot. A, to do food reviews. B, to go to Bavette's. So again, had the opportunity, so we'll talk about it real quick. And this will be my, look at that, with my slippers on. Well, this will be my first foray into a food review. Okay, let's talk about sides for a second. The side dishes there were phenomenal. If you were to ask, okay, the steak was wonderful. Different places might cook it, might season it a little different, but for the most part, a good steak is a good steak. To me, what made that was the side dishes. They were very creative. What I would recommend is the corn side. All right, what is the corn side? The corn side is, picture a homemade macaroni and cheese, sauce a little thinner, less gooey, but still authentic cheese. But instead of macaroni or some form of pasta, they used corn. So it became like a creamed corn, sort of a mac and cheese consistency and feel, with just enough cayenne pepper that they put in there. I know it was cayenne and some white, I could taste it. That it was just absolutely phenomenal. Best creamed corn, and it was inventive. You're talking about a mac and cheese, a corn side dish that harkened back to like a mac and cheese. It was very creative, and it was delicious. And then, I don't care what anyone says about Brussels sprouts. I think most people who hate Brussels sprouts probably have never tried them or just never ate them cooked right. But I love Brussels sprouts. They have to be perhaps boiled first to soften them, then fried and everything. But what Bavette's did, they took it up a notch. They did fry them. They did have, there was almost a little like panko in there, tiny bit of caramelized onions, but they had a sort of a form of a teriyaki sauce. Picture this, a teriyaki sauce, but not so much with the soy aspect of it, more of a honey flavor came through. So you had the savory going on of the the Brussels sprouts and how they fried and seasoned them, and then they were seeped in that teriyaki-like consistency, but with a honey flavor. Who'd have thought of that? Sweet Brussels sprout. What just happened? Was that clap on, clap off? Power shortage. Anyway, that was freaking awesome. Okay, next up, you digging this? Steak tartare with this beautiful, highly leavened bread with these big, glorious pockets of air. That way it had all the nooks and crannies in them. It was gorgeous. Perfectly done. Crispy, crispy golden brown. But the steak tartare, here's the thing about the steak tartare. The way they cut it into, it was very small cubes. It wasn't like laid out flat with some put the red onion on top and bada bing, bada boom. More like a carpaccio. But this steak tartare was cut to the perfect size, seasoned to perfection. And on top of that, I'm not a huge onion fan. I mean, I like caramelized onions, but I'm not big on raw onions. But red onion is a steak tartare thing. But the ratio of the steak to the red onion, I've never tasted a ratio like that in a steak tartare. It was just perfect to the point where the red onions were there. You were like, yeah, I get the red onions, but it was like they were just there. It wasn't overpowering it. It wasn't, because I don't even like it. When a steak tartare has too much, or anything has too much onion, I pick them shits off, you know. But it was just perfect, and they cubed the red onion smaller than the cubes of meat, which was genius too. That way the texture wasn't playing with your head. You know, you're not going from one texture in your mouth to the other texture. And let me tell you, it melted in your mouth. You did not have to chew it. You put it in your mouth, explosion of flavor. You almost could swish it around and swallow it. It was that good. The other side dish was button mushrooms. You know, standard fare button mushrooms. They were good, but I would have gone for seconds on the tartare or that amazing corn. And also, they did an absolute wonderful job on a mashed potato side. The steak had a choice between wet or a dry aged steak. Recommendation, good friend of mine said get the wet. Tried the wet. The wet was good. It was cooked very well. Even, you know, like some of these places, you know, they cook it longer on one side. I mean, they cook it evenly on both sides or unevenly, where, you know, the actual rare or whatever like favors one side. No, this was perfection. The crust on it was perfect. They make their own steak seasoning. They use what I perceive to be like a little bit of a kosher salt, you know, a little more coarse. Good. It was good. It was good. And to top off the meal was we had a big slice. It was like this big of like a sort of a mud pie per se. It was sort of like a slightly denser chocolate mousse with this handmade whipped cream on it with 3 different chocolate shavings on it. Wonderful. You'd think it would sink like a brick because it was a little dense, but again, put it in your mouth, melted. Amazing. Polished off this dinner at Bavette's with a French roast coffee by a company out of, I believe, Chicago called Project X. And it's just made specifically for Bavette. So if you're a coffee drinker, was dining with a friend of mine who's not so much of a coffee drinker, and he said, best effing coffee ever. It is. It was. And I'll tell you what, I'm not a huge French roast guy because I find it a little little on the weak side maybe, and no, the way that they did a good job. It still was full flavor, but not like overwhelming after all that complicated flavors of that meal. Polished off that meal excellently. And I'll also say service was phenomenal from the management to our host. Friend ordered a dirty martini, and she had a sense of humor. Dig this. She goes, like, how dirty do you want it? Well, dirty, dirty. She goes like, filthy dirty. Friend goes, yeah, filthy. And she goes like, Miley Cyrus dirty. And that we just lost it. That was some funny shit right there. So he got him a Miley Cyrus filthy dirty martini, and I had an old fashioned, but it was tequila based, good stuff, and it had a slice of perfectly ripened mango in it. All right, perfectly ripened mango in there, and a little bit of sugar in the bottom. It was, yeah, I sipped that throughout the entire meal. Just enough ice to keep it cold, but by the time it melted, did not dilute it. Well done. So, that's my review of Bavette's. I highly recommend it. It's not your Fat Tuesdays, there's no kids menu in there. It's an elegant place. It's a beautiful place. It's a well-known place, and the food was fantastic. So I will give them 5 Bror stars. So shout out Bavette's. Thank you for taking care of us, and shout out to my friends who were my companions for the evening. Had a wonderful time. Can't wait to do it again. So, do I recommend Bavette's? Abso-freaking-lutely. And that's over at Park MGM.